What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, we've been going back and forth with this Terence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr. situation for quite some time, right? It's a lot of he say, she say. It's a lot of, this person's fault, that person's fault. And I want to ask this question. When is Terence Crawford going to grab the bull by the horns in his career and force these fights? Or should I say, why won't Terence Crawford grab the bull by the horns and force these fights? I'm not one that believes that Terence Crawford is avoiding Errol Spence, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, or any of these guys. I don't believe that. But what I do believe is that Terence Crawford is in a comfort zone, and I do believe that in that comfort zone, Terence Crawford doesn't want to uproot anything. Sometimes familiarity is stronger than anything. Familiarity is stronger than love. Familiarity is stronger than anything you can imagine. When we get comfortable and we get familiar with a situation, a person, place, or thing, change is difficult. So Terence Crawford doesn't want to uproot his situation. It's a comfort zone. It's familiar. If Terence Crawford was to leave Bob Arum, Top Rank, and ESPN, not that he should. I'm not saying that he should. But what I am saying is he needs to force their hand. If you want the Danny Garcia fight, force their hand. Just as easy as they were able to come to an agreement with Amir Khan and find a common medium, because Amir Khan this is something that's not being talked about. Here's something else that's not being talked about. When people say that Danny Garcia should have took the $3 million because he only had $1 million for his fight with Adrian Granados. Amir Khan wasn't willing to take $3 million either. That gets overlooked. Amir Khan was not willing to take $3 million. That's why they ended up paying him $7 million, right? He wasn't willing to take $3 million. And now go figure. Amir Khan lost to Danny Garcia via knockout. And Danny Garcia went up. His career went up. Amir Khan's plateaued at the very best. And it took a dive. It started to nose in, right? So Amir Khan wasn't willing to take $3 million to fight Terence Crawford either. Kell Brook wasn't willing to take $3 million to fight Terence Crawford either. But then you have Bob Arum, Top Rank CEO and promoter. He comes out and he states that there's no budget for a Kell Brook fight for Terence Crawford. He comes out and he states he don't want to do business with Al Heyman, which is the PBC's advisors, PBC fighters advisor, Showtime fighters advisor, Fox fighter advisor, right? He don't want to do business with Al Heyman for Sean Porter, who's a two-time welterweight world champion, for Danny Garcia, who's a former unified junior welterweight world champion and a WBC welterweight world champion. He wasn't willing to do business because they aren't good fighters. He doesn't believe that they're good fighters, and he doesn't believe that they sell. So this is Bob Arum's own words, not my words, not making it up. This is Bob Arum's own words, very own words. Danny Garcia and Sean Porter are not worth negotiating for because they are not good fighters and they don't sell. Well, contrary to popular belief, Errol Spence and Sean Porter fought, and it did 350,000 pay-per-view buys. Terence Crawford did pay-per-view with Victor Postile, and I believe it did somewhere 100 120,000, 125,000 pay-per-views. And I could be over-exaggerating when I say that. And this is no disrespect to Terence Crawford. It's just he's just an unknown commodity. And so, with that said, he's not being promoted the way he should be promoted. Right? He's not getting exposure that he should get the exposure with. Having the engine of ESPN behind you, Terence Crawford, you should get tired of seeing Terence Crawford's face. Right? There was just a football game on ESPN. 2 playoff games on ESPN. Terence Crawford wasn't present. Now I'm sure Terence Crawford will be present when the Green Bay Packers are playing, because that's his team. Wisconsin, that's his team. Right? So he should be plastered all over the place. Terence Crawford should be. Guest appearances on everything. Exposure. Right? Okay. His fight with Victor Postol didn't do well because he's still an unknown commodity. That's just the facts. It's not any malice. It's not any disdain towards Terence Crawford. It's just a fact. Hardcore boxing fans know who Terence Crawford is. Right? Then he did pay-per-view again, and it just didn't do well. It just didn't do well. He fought Jose Benavidez, and then he did a pay-per-view with Amir Khan. And guess what? Amir Khan, Terence Crawford, just didn't do well. It didn't sell. That's whose fault is that it didn't sell? That's nobody's fault. Nobody's to blame for that but his promotional team. It's his promotional team. That's who's to blame. That's who's to blame. Why? Because they jumped to conclusions, and everybody thought that Terence Crawford and Amir Khan is this big sell. I was told that that Amir Khan was a bigger draw than Danny Garcia. Terence Crawford and Amir Khan did 150,000 pay-per-view buys. So essentially, let's say his fight with Victor Postol did 150,000 pay-per-view buys, which I don't believe it did. But let's just say it did, right? Let's just say it did. That's total 300,000 pay-per-view buys in 2 pay-per-views. Where Sean Porter and Errol Spence did 350,000 pay-per-view buys in 1 fight. So, Victor Postol, Terence Crawford did 60,000 pay-per-view buys. So total, at max, he did 210,000 pay-per-view buys in 2 fights. Errol Spence did a grand total of 500,000 or 450,000 or something like that. Because his fight with Mikey Garcia did, I believe, 300,000 pay-per-view buys. And his fight with Sean Porter did 350,000 pay-per-view. So 650,000 pay-per-view buys to Terence Crawford's 200. So that means it did essentially 400,000 more pay-per-view buys than Terence Crawford did, Errol Spence. And Errol Spence had 2 lucrative fights in his career, Mikey Garcia and Sean Porter, the 2 pay-per-view events. So you compare his 2 lucrative fights, pay-per-view events, to Terence Crawford's 2 pay-per-view events, Victor Postol and Amir Khan. The proof is in the pudding, right? The sales, right? Now, I know people are going to tell you, well, Mikey Garcia was the reasoning for Terence Crawford, for Errol Spence doing those numbers. Well, I remember people consistently saying that Sean Porter couldn't sell out. Even Errol Spence himself said Sean Porter couldn't sell out his own family barbecue. Right? This is what we was told. Even Errol Spence, like I said. Errol Spence said that Sean Porter couldn't sell out his own family barbecue. This is what he said. Well, he did 300,000 pay-per-view buys with Sean Porter. 350,000 pay-per-view buys with Errol Spence and Sean Porter. Right? So if Sean Porter couldn't sell out a family barbecue, then that means Errol Spence carried that fight. Right? That's what that means. It means Errol Spence carried the fight. Now let's look at Errol Spence and Mikey Garcia. Right? Let's look at that. 360,000 pay-per-view buys. So Mikey Garcia only brought in a grand total of 10,000 more pay-per-view buys than Sean Porter did. But let people tell you, listen to what people tell you. They'll tell you that Mikey Garcia carried the Errol Spence fight as far as pay-per-view buys. But 360,000 pay-per-view buys for Mikey Garcia, Errol Spence. 350,000 pay-per-view buys for Errol Spence and Sean Porter. And let's just say it was 300 pay-per-view buys for Errol Spence and Sean Porter. That means Mikey Garcia still was only accountable for 50,000 pay-per-view buys, and Errol Spence was accountable for 300. Right? Because Errol Spence, Sean Porter couldn't sell. And if Sean Porter can't sell, then that means the grand total, the completion of Errol Spence and Sean Porter means that Errol Spence carried the pay-per-views. That means that he did 300,000 pay-per-views. And so when he did it against Mikey Garcia, 360, that means Mikey Garcia only added another 60,000 pay-per-views. So that means Errol Spence is the pay-per-view attraction when it comes to them, right? Not Mikey Garcia, not Sean Porter, not Terence Crawford, not Victor Postol, not Amir Khan. Because Amir Khan did, with Terence Crawford, 150,000 pay-per-views. Without Terence Crawford, so Terence Crawford did 50,000, 60,000 pay-per-views with Victor Postol, right? So let's say he's only accountable for 60,000 pay-per-views. Eliminate Victor Postol. So that 150,000 he did with Amir Khan means Amir Khan was accountable for 90,000 of the pay-per-views. That means Amir Khan was a bigger draw than Mikey Garcia, essentially, because Mikey Garcia was only a 60,000 difference, pay-per-view difference, when it came to Mikey Garcia and Sean Porter. Because Sean Porter, Errol Spence did 300,000, and according to everybody else, according to everybody that mentions Mikey Garcia and Errol Spence, Sean Porter and Errol Spence, is that Sean Porter can't sell out. He is an absolute not draw. Listen to Top Rank CEO and promoter Bob Arum, promoter Terence Crawford. He's not a draw. He can't sell out. He's not an attraction. So that means the 300,000, we said it's 350,000, but I'm going to give y'all the benefit of the doubt and say 300,000. So 300,000 was all on Errol Spence Jr., right? So that means by himself, pretty much, with whoever, Errol Spence could do at least 300,000. So you add Mikey Garcia, it bumped up to 360. So Mikey Garcia was accountable for 60,000, right? So with that said, if that's the case, if Mikey Garcia was accountable for 60,000, right, that means that Amir Khan was accountable for 90,000. So that means Amir Khan is a bigger draw. So essentially, Amir Khan carried the Terence Crawford pay-per-views and Errol Spence carried the Mikey Garcia pay-per-views, right? And this is all due to the fact that it's just lack of promotion. So at the end of the fight, Terence Crawford against Kavaluskas, the Mean Machine, right? He still refused to pin down any one specific boxer. He says, they know who they are. They know who I want. No, we don't. See, this is the difference. When Errol Spence wanted Keith Thurman fight, Errol Spence said, I want Keith Thurman. Any place Errol Spence was and Keith Thurman was mentioned or present, Errol Spence made it abundantly clear that he wanted Keith Thurman. When he sat on the telecast, right, and Keith Thurman was up there with Errol Spence even insulted Keith Thurman by saying, I want this dude right here, but he probably get injured again before we get around to fighting again. Remember that? That's what Errol Spence said. I want this dude right. I want Keith Thurman. I want Keith Thurman. He told anybody that listened he wanted Keith Thurman fight, right? So, with that said, then Errol Spence got in the ring with Sean Porter and said, I want Sean Porter. He said, I'm cool with Kenny Porter. I'm cool with the Porters. But guess what? I want Sean Porter. And I'll keep that same energy because I want Sean Porter. I want Sean Porter. The difference was Mikey Garcia kept calling out Errol Spence. We thought it was a joke at one point in time, but Mikey Garcia was being truthful. And he pushed for the Errol Spence fight, right? And I told y'all before, I feel like he pushed for it because he was in a win-win situation, and Errol Spence was in a catch-22. He was in a lose-lose situation, right? So Errol Spence was expected to dominate him. It was one-sided. He had to either dominate him or he was going to be labeled exposed. Mikey Garcia, if he got dominated, he was supposed to get dominated because they pushed the agenda. He moved up 2 weight classes, although he fought 3 out of his last 5 fights at 40. So that's essentially the majority of his fights was at 40, meaning 40 to 47 is only 1 weight class. But it is what it is. So Mikey Garcia, if he did great against Errol Spence, he accomplished a great feat. But if he got dominated, he was supposed to get dominated. So it's a lose-lose situation for Errol Spence. It was one-sided. He had to dominate him, and that was it. It couldn't be close. It couldn't be none of that, right? It couldn't be a dog fight. He definitely couldn't lose, right? So it was a lose-lose situation. That's why Mikey continued to call him out. Now, Danny Garcia situation. Mikey Garcia left, became a free agent, did a fight-by-fight basis so that way he could capitalize on his career. That's what Mikey Garcia did. So he can capitalize on his career, because another thing is anybody that listen, people will tell you, the detractors of Errol Spence, they'll tell you that Mikey Garcia had a huge Mexican fan base. Well, I just debunked that, right? The entire notion that he carried the Errol Spence fight, right? Okay, so now Mikey Garcia shook loose from Bob Arum, Top Rank, and ESPN, and he got big fights, and he's being promoted. Now he's getting ready to get $7 million to fight Jesse Vargas on DAZN and still be a free agent after the fight. Because, see, this is the difference. Like I'm telling you, the reason why I feel like Terence Crawford doesn't want to shake loose and grab the bull by the horns and direct and steer his own career and force these fights. Force Bob Arum to make these fights happen. The reason I believe he don't do so is because it's familiarity. He's comfortable where he's at. See, when you become Mikey Garcia in the situation Mikey Garcia is, you got to do a lot of footwork, right? You got to do a lot of negotiating, a lot of meetings, and Terence Crawford don't want to do that. Or Terence Crawford, he said this before, and I'm not making this up. I'm not assuming anything. Terence Crawford said this before. I don't want to do nothing but fight. I'm a boxer. That's what I want to do. I want to fight. Put him in front of me so I can fight. So, see, he don't want to do the business part. So I'm starting to believe Terence Crawford is not even truly aware of what's taking place in negotiations. And I could be wrong. I could very well be wrong. But it just seems like he don't want to put his best foot forward. So you see, when Terence Crawford and Errol Spence came to face and Bob Arum was there, Errol Spence told Bob Arum to his face, call Al. Let's make it happen. You send over a contract? No. You said you ain't know who Al was. Call Al. Let's make it happen. And what happened? Right? But see, Errol Spence will tell you, call Al, but in the same token, Errol Spence will promote himself. Errol Spence chased down Keith Thurman. He never got the fight, but he attempted to. So he made it abundantly clear who wanted to fight and who didn't. There was no confusion who wanted the Keith Thurman fight and Errol Spence fight. Between the two, there was absolutely no confusion. Right? There was no confusion when Errol Spence and Sean Porter situation arose, right? When he got in the ring, as soon as Sean Porter beat Danny Garcia, he got in the ring and he said he wanted to make the fight happen ASAP. And everybody was laughing at Sean Porter and making fun of Sean Porter when Errol got in the ring and he said, how you doing, sir? Remember that. Sean Porter is just a polite guy, but remember that, right? He got in the ring and he said, how you doing, sir? And everybody poked fun of Sean Porter for that and said that he was scared. And Errol Spence showed up at his post-fight press conference and said, this is the fight that I want. Right? Now, it didn't come to fruition immediately. He ended up fighting Mikey Garcia and then going ahead and fighting Sean Porter. But he eventually got Sean Porter. He made it abundantly clear what he wanted. And even after the Mikey Garcia fight, Errol Spence called Manny Pacquiao, 8th Division Filipino superstar boxer, legend. Now he's currently WBA champion, right? He called Manny Pacquiao in the ring immediately after. Manny Pacquiao looked shocked. He didn't know what was going on. He looked shocked, right? He called Manny Pacquiao in the ring and said, let's make it happen. I want to fight you, Manny. Let's make it happen. Let's unify. He made it abundantly clear. He's not talking in codes. He's not confusing anybody. Right? He makes it abundantly clear his target. Yet we get Terence Crawford that continues not to put a direct target. He says they know who they are. I want all of them. And then he goes on to make it even more confusing by stating that not only does he want all of them, but he wants all the fighters. He's not ducking nobody on top ringside. But what welterweights are there on top ringside to give you the fights that anybody is discussing or mentioning you ducking? Who's on the top ringside that anybody's mentioning that Terence Crawford is avoiding and ducking? Nobody. Then it gets even more confusing with the situation with Sean Porter and Terence Crawford. You're not going to fight him because he's your friend in your relationship. Understood. But guess what? Sean Porter and Kenny Porter are willing to make it happen. And the dog in Terence Crawford needs to make it happen then, right? Because we understand that Terence Crawford is a dog in and out the ring. And guess what? Even sometimes you come to blows with your own brother. Your blood brother. I have. And a lot of you guys out there have. You come to blows with your own blood brother. Let alone coming to blows. And that's for nothing. Nothing, right? Just over a petty argument. A petty misunderstanding. Right? But guess what? You'll do that. And check this out. Imagine you do it for millions of dollars and it's not even your blood brother. In which Sean Porter would be the biggest fight of Terence Crawford's career. Sean Porter would be the biggest fight in Terence Crawford's career. Then you say you want to fight Danny Garcia, and you have history with Danny Garcia. You wanted to fight him since he was at 140, so on and so forth, right? But then you get your bro that says, well, Danny Garcia is better than Terence Crawford, better than Sean Porter. When offered Sean Porter, you just want to see style matchup. It's not a good fight. You could do better than that. We're not disrespecting Sean Porter, but we could do better. So we'd rather fight Danny Garcia. So essentially saying Danny Garcia is a better fighter than Sean Porter, but Sean Porter beat Danny Garcia. And now you have the opportunity to fight Sean Porter for millions. Okay, let's say you want the Danny Garcia fight. So why Amir Khan wasn't willing to fight Terence Crawford for $3 million. So let's just stop all the talk of Danny Garcia should have took the money. Because Amir Khan himself wasn't willing to do so for only $3 million. That's why they bumped it up to 7. Because if that was the case, Amir Khan just took the opportunity of $3 million, but he wasn't willing to do so. That's why they bumped up the price, right? The offer, the carrot got bigger, right? So if you truly wanted Danny Garcia over Amir Khan, then why didn't you say to Bob Arum, hey, listen, push for this Danny Garcia fight. Don't tell me he's not worth it. Don't tell me he can't sell. Don't do none of that. Let's push for Danny Garcia fight. That's the fight I want. In which Danny Garcia, too, would have been the biggest fight in Terence Crawford's career as well. As well. So let's be honest here, right? He didn't land the Mikey Garcia fight. He didn't land the Manny Pacquiao fight, and Bob Arum admitted to blocking the fight because he stated that, it was too dangerous for Manny Pacquiao. And he didn't want to see him get hurt. So he admitted to blocking. You could go right on Barbershop Conversation with Fred and catch that interview. So he admitted to blocking the Manny Pacquiao fight, right? You didn't grab the bull by the horns and force him to make the Danny Garcia fight. Sean Porter fight you're not willing to accept. You couldn't land Manny Pacquiao when he was on Top Rank. You still can't land him now. He's not on Top Rank. Mikey Garcia fight you couldn't secure. Errol Spence is willing to do so, but obviously we know the situation because the car accident. If Errol Spence is willing to go directly in the Terence Crawford fight, so be it. Let's see it. Make it happen. But Errol Spence already said that he's going to go the route of fighting Danny Garcia the end of May or early June. And then he wants the unification bout with either Terence Crawford or Manny Pacquiao. Is it realistic to think that that Errol Spence and Terence Crawford fight is going to happen next? Right? Because I'm pretty sure anybody with in their right mind would advise. I wouldn't even advise Errol Spence coming off of such a horrific car accident and situation to even going to the Danny Garcia fight. Test the waters. Right? But hey, if he 100%, 1,000%, make it happen. Make it happen. Right? Now, so here's the thing. Terence Crawford knows that Bob Arum has yet to secure a mega legacy fight for Terence Crawford. I'll say this again. Bob Arum, and this is no disrespect to Bob Arum or Top Rank or anybody. I'm just calling a spade a spade. Bob Arum has yet to secure a mega legacy fight for Terence Crawford. He's yet to do it for him. Vasiliy Lomachenko is on his way to doing it. Right? Vasiliy Lomachenko, there is no confusion where and when and who Vasiliy Lomachenko wants to fight, is there? Except the situation with Devin Haney, and he made it pretty much clear that he didn't want to fight Devin Haney. But it's no confusion that Vasiliy Lomachenko wants to fight Gervonta Tank Davis and Teofimo Lopez, right? Why? Because Vasiliy Lomachenko will not stay in the comfort zone and allow Top Rank and Bob Arum to just dictate and direct his career to any which old direction. No, there's a certain avenue and street Vasiliy Lomachenko is going to have to go down for his legacy, and he will not let anybody derail him from doing so. Not his promoter, manager, or anybody. He makes it abundantly clear. When Vasiliy Lomachenko did his post-fight press conference interview after Teofimo Lopez beat Richard Comey, what did he say? I'm going to fight Teofimo Lopez in April, and then I'm going to fight Gervonta Tank Davis. The road was clear. There's no gray area. There's no fog. There's no rubbish. There's nothing. He made it abundantly clear. I'm going 2 big fights. Richard Comey, Teofimo Lopez in April. Immediately after Teofimo Lopez beat Richard Comey. Immediately following it, he said, I'm going to fight Teofimo Lopez in April, and then I'm going to fight Gervonta Tank Davis. I'm going to chase down Gervonta Tank Davis. That's the 2 fights that I want. Clear as day. He didn't say, I want all of the 135-pounders. He didn't say, they all know who I'm talking about. He didn't say, I want all the champions. No, he made it very, very clear and abundantly clear what direction he wanted to go in. Because he will not allow anybody, not Bob Arum, to dictate and direct his career to whichever and whatever way he wanted to go. Because Bob Arum recently mentioned a Nui. Right? I'm sure that Bob Arum would have tried to make the Nui fight. Right? You heard Bob Arum say that he wants Vasiliy Lomachenko to go down and wait. He wants him to do all these things. Vasiliy Lomachenko will not allow Bob Arum, because he won't stay in the comfort zone, to allow Bob Arum to just dictate when, where, and how he fights. And who he fights. And they are under Top Rank. They're both under the same promoter, meaning Terence Crawford and Vasiliy Lomachenko. They are both under the same promotional banner, same network, same everything. Vasiliy Lomachenko is getting the legacy fights. He is being promoted. Tyson Fury, going into the Deontay Wilder fight. Need I say any more? He said he was ready the third fight in, he's ready, he's going. Al Heyman fighter, PBC fighter, Deontay Wilder. Now, I know this was already previously, they had engagements and everything, so, he didn't 100%, Bob Arum didn't 100% make this fight because it was already semi-made. So I understand that. But again, he still had to negotiate, and they got the deal done and over the line, right? Right now, you get these fighters that are calling out and directly making their presence felt as to who and what they want. Period. Danny Garcia, after Errol Spence Sean Porter fight, got right in the ring and said, I want to fight Errol Spence Jr. Now, people are going to say, well, it was already premeditated. Call it what you want. Danny Garcia is getting what he wants. Right? Terence Crawford appears at the zone events. Yes, we know Mighty Maurice Hooker, is a close friend of his, like a brother to him. So he appears to the zone events, but he does interviews there. Why not put pressure on the PBC fighters? See, his pride is blocking him from having 20/20 vision to be able to grasp and capture what he wants. Period. And his comfort zone. He don't want to get out of his comfort zone. Ultimately, Terence Crawford does not want to get out of his comfort zone. Point blank and period. Familiarity. He's familiar with Bob Arum. He's familiar with Top Rank. He's familiar with their situation. He's comfortable with it, and he don't want to come out. Thus the reason why he won't grab the bull by the horns, grab his career by the horns, and force these fighters into the corner. If they're so-called ducking him and avoiding him, then show up to the fights, show up to where they at, they're not hard to find, and force them to fight. This is Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, and Tyson Fury have been doing. Tyson Fury got in the Deontay Wilder fight. He got in the ring right after Deontay Wilder fought, and they came face to face. Remember that? Deontay Wilder showed up to Luis King Kong Ortiz fights, right? He got in the ring immediately after that, right? Deontay Wilder showed up to Tyson Fury fights, right? Deontay Wilder was headed over the Anthony Joshua fight, but Anthony Joshua blocked him from coming. They didn't have a contract signed. He blocked Deontay Wilder from coming. But he was going. Luis Ortiz was at Deontay Wilder fight with Tyson Fury, and he was calling him out. Dominic Breazeale was at Deontay Wilder's fight in the crowd calling him out. Deontay Wilder was at Dominic Breazeale fight, and Dominic Breazeale then turned around and called Deontay Wilder out. So why can't we get Terence Crawford to do the same? Period. Because it's familiarity. That's why. He's comfortable. And that's all I got for y'all. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notification. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.